Welcome to What's New with AWS. I'm Jeff Barr. Today, instead of launches, I've got a really special treat for you. My guest today is Akshay Ram. Akshay is Senior Product Manager for our new App Runner service. Akshay, welcome to our show.
Thanks, Jeff. Super excited to be here.
So to get started, tell me about how did you get your start in tech?
Yeah, so I had a background in computer science, and what really got me interested in technology is how the impact you can have with people's lives. So I worked in a bunch of startups where I was a software developer and product manager working on healthcare technology. And fast forward to today, I'm here working at Amazon because I can also use technology to really make an impact at a much bigger scale.
How did you originally come to join Amazon?
Yeah, that's super interesting. So I was actually an intern, and one of the things I realized as an intern, and it came on me pretty quick, is the amount of ownership you get here at Amazon, being a product manager, and I really like that, and that's why I came back full time, and I got to work on two really exciting things in my short time here at Amazon. The first is I was a product manager at Fargate. I saw the business grow to hundreds of millions of tasks every week, with a lot of customers successfully using it. And that scale really taught me a lot. And I also got to work on App Runner, which is a brand new service, and went through learning there. So super exciting and grateful for all of this opportunity.
So in your relatively brief time at Amazon, you've gotten to participate in the early days and the scaling up of a service, and then to actually get to design, build, and really own something brand new. First, starting with Fargate, what did you learn from those early days of Fargate about working Amazon and about running a service?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the scale is something which really gets you, especially at AWS. And you saw Fargate customers really ask and adopt Fargate in a very meaningful way quite quickly. And they ask for a bunch of features. You can see a roadmap immediately shoot up. And the challenge as a product manager is because Fargate is promises for simpler way of running containers because customers don't manage virtual machines. It's serverless. We had to really prioritize what features should we launch and how do we build it in a way that doesn't make things too complicated and preserves the simplicity. So there was a lot of understanding there. And there's also the fact that we scale and grow so fast. So there's a lot of learning internally that comes with operating at scale. So those are the two key takeaways for me with Fargate. It was super interesting.
So you talked about scaling and growing fast. That means Fargate's doing pretty well. Any particular data points you could share with us?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We have hundreds of millions of tasks being launched every week. One in two new container services customers start with Fargate because they want that simplicity. And we also had a recent case study by Vanguard where they said that they used Fargate, they migrated to Fargate, and they realized faster time to ship new code and a 50% savings in cost. And that's what we like to hear from our customers.
So you're working on Fargate. Everything's going well, it sounds like. What did you start hearing from customers that said we need to go beyond Fargate? And what was kind of the decision of do we extend Fargate or we do something totally separate, effectively?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So so Fargate took a direction where customers really wanted a lot of capability with it. They really wanted a lot of control. For instance, we added support for file systems. We added support for extensible ephemeral volumes. We added support for execing into containers. So it's really growing. Customers want more. They want Windows. They want GPUs. So we thought Fargate is getting super capable for a lot of customers, and it gives you a lot of control. But there was still a segment of customers who said, yes, Fargate is simple, but it gives me a lot of control, and I don't need so much control. I want to make things even simpler to run my web applications. And that's where we're like, okay, let's Fargate be the capable compute choice for customers. And this new service, App Runner, where you want super simplicity for running web applications, that's probably the place for you. That's why we went with App Runner as a separate service.
So we're really famous within Amazon for what we call the start from the customer and work backward model. Give me a sense of how you actually applied that as you were thinking about how to actually build the service.
Absolutely. So we spoke to hundreds of customers, and the themes came down to three specific themes, what customers were telling us. The first is they really wanted to realize the benefits of containers and the flexibility it affords them and the scalability without being experts in containers or infrastructure. So there were a lot of customers who really want to focus on their business logic of their applications versus infrastructure because they didn't have that expertise. The second is, this is super important, is as customers want scale, as their businesses grow, they didn't want to re-platform. And just to paraphrase a customer, he said that there's a cottage industry of solutions which are easy to run, but quite a few of them don't scale with the needs as the business grows. So customers said, hey, I want something that's easy to use, but also scaled as I grow. And finally, customers said they want fully managed infrastructure in that it's not just scaffolding, which easily gets them from point A to point B and getting them up and running, but also when they're at point B, they want all the infrastructure managed. So they don't have to learn suddenly about virtual machines or load balancing. They want all of that fully abstracted from them. So that was the three key themes, which is why we went and built AppRunner.
So you mentioned simplicity a couple of times, and every time I've tried to make something, I've learned for myself over and over again that actually getting to simplicity is really difficult. How did you actually go about doing it, and any particular tips for our viewers about how they might go about doing it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think the biggest tip I had is, or the biggest learning I went through is learning to say no. For instance, I'll give you a specific example. A lot of containers run with a two container setup. There's the application container, and there's another container called a sidecar container. And the sidecar container, introducing that in AppRunner was something was like, yeah, we could introduce that. It would be more choice and control for customers, but it also introduces complexity because, there's dependency between these containers, what starts first and what starts next. And so there's a lot of complexity there. So we're like, okay, what does this other container do, which sits alongside the application container? And then based on our research, a lot of customers said it's observability. So then we're like, okay, what if we give customers observability out of the box with AppRunner such that they don't even have to care about this sidecar container? And can we take that away? Can we take that complexity away and give them functionality? So those are the kind of decisions you need to make and learn to say no. So that's the hard part of simplicity. We're still learning. We look forward to feedback, but that's the process which we're going through as we're building up AppRunner.
All right. So a lot of the teams I work with at Amazon use a set of tenets to really guide their design and their decision-making process. Is it safe to assume that simplicity is perhaps your first tenet?
Absolutely. Simplicity is our first tenet. But we also added a simple trade-off to simplicity because not to over-index, but also to scale with growth. So say, hey, it's simple, but it should scale as a customer grows. So that's kind of like our first tenet. Absolutely it is.
Cool. So I think I kind of see the basics now and where you're coming from. So tell me what you built. Tell me what AppRunner is all about and how do I get started? What does it do for me? How do I use it?
Yeah, absolutely. AppRunner essentially lowers the barrier entry to get a web application up and running in a few minutes. So you can go from your development to production in AWS Cloud and have a scalable, secure web application in minutes. Customers come with source code or container image. That's where their business logic is packaged as. And AppRunner will handle all the building of the container, the deploying of the container in the safe way, scaling and load balancing traffic that comes to your container, encrypting the traffic, and also managing and patching all of the underlying infrastructure. So customers can really focus on what matters to them, which is their application and business logic, where AWS manages all of the undifferentiated heavy lifting of operating infrastructure.
Okay. So we often use this phrase fully managed around Amazon. And I love that phrase, but give me a sense. What does that mean to you, and how does that actually apply to AppRunner?
Absolutely. So customers said fully managed implies that resources do not live in their account. For instance, when we can easily provision resources like create a nice, simple, streamlined user interface where customers can click a few buttons and we can create the AWS resource in their account. But they're like, we don't even want to see these resources in their account. All they wanted to see is a resource called an AppRunner service. And to them, that means fully managed because then you're managing all of the infrastructure for us and it doesn't show in their portion of the shared responsibility. It's managed by AWS.
Oh, so essentially what they create is what they get. And
Yes.
they create their app and all they see in the account is their app. They don't see other things that were made for
Absolutely.
them. Makes a lot of sense. All right, so there's been kind of some people making fun of us a little bit and saying, well, AWS doesn't understand containers because there's 17 different ways to run containers on AWS. Is that a feature or is that a bug from your point of view?
So that's actually a feature, Jeff, because from my little experience here, I've seen the diversity of use cases we get here because of the scale of AWS. We have plenty of customers who use Amazon ECS. And with ECS, they use EC2 or Fargate. We have plenty of customers who use Amazon EKS. With EKS, they use EC2, Managed Node Groups, and Fargate. So customers really have a lot of these use cases and preferences. And that's why we have the breadth of these services there for customers to choose what best fits their use case.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So realizing that we're in the very early days of AppRunner, we just launched it earlier this year. What kind of customer successes are you seeing so far?
Yeah, so we're seeing customers launch a bunch of web applications, could be static websites, but we're also seeing APIs which talk back and forth with a data tier, and the data tier is usually S3 or DynamoDB. So we're seeing customers adopt DynamoDB and AppRunner as a pattern, and it's a pretty powerful pattern because you can essentially have your web tier and your data tier fully managed, and a lot of your business logic is encapsulated with just these two services.
Well, you mentioned code or containers kind of as two separate starting points for the customer. Is either one proving statistically more popular than the other?
So we're seeing equal proportion of both, and the reason we do that, we see that is we have a lot of customers who like the operating model of Beanstalk where there are runtimes. And they like to operate at the source code level, so that's carried forward with AppRunner. So there's plenty of customers who use source code. And also with the rise of containers, we have a lot of customers who like to operate at the container level. So it's pretty much equal proportion right now.
As the customer grows, both in complexity of application and scale of application, how far is AppRunner going to be able to take them?
So we'd like customers, if they want to stay with AppRunner, because we have built it with scale in mind from day one. That's one of our, as I said, we wanted to be simple to use, but also scale with growth. But of course, if customers want the choice and control they get with the container orchestrator, they totally can. For instance, I'll give you an example with Copilot. AWS Copilot is a CLI which the containers team releases, and you can easily just specify the same container image and say, hey, instead of AppRunner, I want to use ECS Fargate, and you can absolutely do it quite seamlessly. You just need the container image to point to both places, and quite a bit of it is managed for you. So we will make migration tooling where it makes sense for customers, but we'd also like customers to stay with AppRunner where it makes sense for them.
All right. What kind of lead time do you see when a new customer wants to get started and they walk up with their code or container and say, okay, I understand the value and the benefit of AppRunner. Let's do it. Are we talking days, weeks, months to get going?
I keep joking with my team here. It's actually 4 clicks and 5 keystrokes is the minimum amount you can get, minimum amount of effort which it takes to get up and running in AppRunner. And you can get a web server, be it Flask, Express, Tomcat, Nginx. So you can get the web server running up really quickly. And an easy path to get started is just use out of the box official image of Tomcat from ECR Public. Just drop it in there and just say run. And you get your web server up and running. And from there, of course, you can add your data tier with DynamoDB, but it's seamless because DynamoDB is fully managed as well. And yeah, you can get up and running pretty quickly. I would say in days or even minutes if I can be very aggressive.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, back in the old days, back when I used to be able to actually make stuff myself, people used to talk about this thing called the LAMP stack: Linux, Apache, MySQL, and then PHP, Perl, or Python. Is there a sense perhaps of an AppRunner stack? You've talked about containers and DynamoDB. What other AWS services might typically want to be part of that stack?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So DynamoDB is becoming will be a big pattern as well, because it's fully managed and customers like that operational model of the database. But customers do want a relational database, so RDS is going to be a big deal as well. So customers will want to connect AppRunner to RDS databases or databases in RDS. That's something which we expect to see a lot more of. S3, of course, where they also host data. So mostly we see customers use their web applications along with the data tier and using the services that support that, the storage services at AWS.
Makes a lot of sense. Now let's go back to that 17 ways to run containers for just a second. I've seen some people kind of ask about what is the relative positioning of AppRunner and Elastic Beanstalk? How do they fit together? How do I choose between one and the other? Is AppRunner the successor? What do you think about that?
So let me talk about the commonalities. AppRunner and Beanstalk have that focus of developer experience. But where they differ is Beanstalk provisions that all the infrastructure resources in the customer account. This goes back to our conversation about fully managed infrastructure. It's not fully managed. It actually provisions those resources in your account. But customers, of course, can benefit from customizing their load balancers, specifying any instance type they want, using pricing options like spot. So there's a lot of control you get with infrastructure provision in your account. But with AppRunner, there's no infrastructure in your account. So you get a lot more simplicity on not just provisioning, but also operating the service. So we'd likely, what we think we'd see is new customers will probably use AppRunner to have a simpler operating model. But existing customers who want control and selection, which they used to with Beanstalk, will continue to use Beanstalk. And we're going to just support both use cases. We're just going to support both services and both customer bases. As their needs move and shift. That's something which we'll see, but we support both.
On a totally different topic, I'm guessing that most of this has been conceptualized and designed and built and shipped during the last year and a half, where we've been working from home and quarantining and all working remotely and under unusual and unique circumstances. First, what has that been like as far as like the team experience and productivity? And maybe second, what did you learn, and what tips might you offer our audience for how to be useful and productive in that situation?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was a bit of a yin yang, to be honest. The good part is we got to launch a new service working fully remote. And the bad part is I really want to see my teammates. I want to meet them in person. I don't think anything, when it's safe, of course. So I definitely look forward to that. I think the tip here is really staying focused. And one of the things you really learn at Amazon is really focus on the customer and the customer use case. And even through long, hard days, that absolutely keeps the team motivated and focused and understanding the larger mission. But of course, make sure you also meet your teammates when it's safe also, because at least according to me, there's no substitute in meeting your teammates in the flesh and toasting to the service launch.
I couldn't agree more. I felt very useful and very productive for the last however long it's been at this point. But there's something magic about just being in person and being able to connect and kind of sense body language and just the kind of impromptu conversations and the hallway conversations and oh, by the way, I had a great idea. Let's chat about it. We don't have any really good substitutes for that.
Absolutely.
Online, unfortunately. All right, so we've talked about where you started and what you have right now. Give me a sense of what the future holds for AppRunner.
So we have a public roadmap on GitHub. We've already started to see a lot of customer requests into where they want to take AppRunner. For instance, there's a lot of feature requests for varying controls of network access control. Customers want to be able to connect to their private VPCs, for instance, to talk to a database in RDS. Customers want to be able to lock down the endpoint of an AppRunner service. Customers want more observability, so there's feature requests such as X-ray. So we're going to hear a lot of feedback from customers from our roadmap and prioritize. We're just getting started with AppRunner. We're just going to build it out to make it better and better for customers.
So still day one in Amazon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful. Cool. Okay. Well, just kind of wrapping up, are there any particular things that I should have asked that you're just dying to tell me about?
Yeah. So one cool feature which we heard from customers is believe it or not, cost allocation. Cost allocation is super simple in AppRunner because you don't manage those infrastructure resources. And what that means is you can essentially go to Cost Explorer and find out the unit economics of every single application so simply. All you need to do is, hey, here's my AppRunner app tag, production. Just drag and drop that tag in the Cost Explorer, and you can see the cost of that app. Of course, there's other resources you use with the app, such as data transfer and databases. You just need to add on to those. But that cost visibility and exploration has become super simple. Because all customers, the only customer resource they have in their account with AppRunner is just the service.
Excellent. So this means customers can see exactly how much it's costing them to run the app, and maybe they can even do it at a very fine-grained level and with a little bit of calculation figure out this is what it costs to serve a customer or to generate a web page or service an API request.
Exactly.
That's awesome. All right. Well, actually, this has been really wonderful. I've really learned a lot and really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today. Thanks so much for doing this, and best of luck in your career and with your service. And be sure to let me know what you come up with next.
I sure will, and thanks so much for having me, Jeff. It's been a pleasure being here.
Likewise. Well, that's our special interview for today. As again, that was Akshay Ram. He's Senior Product Manager for the new App Runner service. Be sure to check it out online. I'm Jeff Barr. I've enjoyed giving you this interview today. As always, give us some comments, give us some likes, share this with your friends, and be sure to actually check out App Runner for yourself and let us know what you think. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again soon.